Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Well, whatever happened there, that was probably my fault, Brooksy. Our real theme played over the Sunday Live. But whatever, it's week 2. What are you going to do about it?
People have always said they wanted both at the same time. We're man of the people,
Look,
men of the people.
Mashups are all the rage these days, and we figured we would go with our own mashup of playing two themes at the exact same time. Have you ever turned into that Nickelback thing? If you go on YouTube, like they play two Nickelback songs, one out of the left channel and one out of the right channel. It makes this like beautiful mashup because all they do is the same songs. We tried that. It was not beautiful, Brooks. I suggest we don't do that again.
I'm with you there.
Sorry about that, but welcome into Sunday Live. That's not the way to start the show, but here we are. I am Mike. Man, I'm tilted. I am so tilted, Brooks. I'm Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright from the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for Sunday Live, where we break down some news. We answer some of the trending start-sit questions, and then we go to you, the listener, and we see what's going on out there with you. It is week 2. Thankfully, the last-second tilt is not nearly as strong as last week, as you had the Trey Sermon fiasco, the Zach Moss fiasco. But we do have a couple big pieces of news, so let's get into it.
The big picture.
All right, so the biggest news of the day, Josh Jacobs, he was ruled out. That did happen a while back, so hopefully you were able to make the proper adjustments. The good stuff, John Gruden, he is the gift that keeps on giving to us, because when asked, is this a big opportunity for Kenyon Drake, he said, nay. This is a big opportunity for Peyton Barber. Going to be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to go with the guy off of Washington's practice squad, who, by the way, John Gruden only referenced Peyton Barber's time in Tampa Bay. Not exactly sure if Gruden knows that he got Peyton Barber from the Washington practice squad. That remains to be seen. Either way, that's a precarious situation here for if you're hoping to do the Kenyon Drake spot start or the Peyton Barber flyer. I don't suggest doing that. DeAndre Swift, he's the Monday night game. He had a full practice on Saturday. Expect him to go. Expect this the entire year round with that groin injury. Hopefully he stays off the groin index, but that's just going to happen. And his counterpart, Jamal Williams, if you have not seen it, Brooks, the Lions doing God's work up there. We have Jamal that. We have given Jamal Williams his own YouTube special. It's going to be great. Zach Moss is back in. Trey Sermon will be in. We believe it will be Elijah Mitchell. The reports on the NFL Network are that the missile will be carrying the load. Kyle Shanahan's a crazy guy, though. Ramondre Stevenson, the New England Patriots rookie running back, has been punished yet again for that fumble. Like I guess when you get in on your first carry early on in the game and you fumble, Bill Belichick says to the bench with you, so he is out. J.J. Taylor will be active. If you are in a deep league, I recommend you, if you have a never not working stash spot, you could go worse than putting J.J. Taylor on the bench. At the wide receiver position, the interesting scratches, Paris Campbell is out. Michael Pittman will be in for the Indianapolis Colts. They were both added late to the injury report. I'm trying to pivot away from Michael Pittman this particular week if I can because of that injury report. That's bad vibes. That's bad mojo. For the Jets, Jamison Crowder is off the COVID list, but he is not in the active starting roster yet. He's going to be out, and Denzel Mims is going to be out. Can you trade Denzel Mims, please? New York Jets, you don't want him on your team. Someone else certainly does, and if he's doing nothing for your team, take your 5th-round pick or whatever and trade him away. Let Mims flourish somewhere else. Tyrell Williams for the Lions will be out on Monday. For tight ends, they're all playing, baby. Jonnu's going to be in. He showed up late on the injury report. Zach Ertz had that hamstring situation. I'm not playing Zach Ertz. Him being in, Maybe it takes away a little bit from the Dallas Goedert smash start. I know he was Jason's start of the week at the tight end position, which I like Goddard this week. Zach Ertz being in, it does cap that upside. And Eric Ebron is going to play. Brooks, are you scouring the internets? Are you pulling the levers, pushing the buttons on our website, thefantasyfootballers.com, where you can get all of your start-sit questions answered? But we also track the trending players because usually there's just a handful of guys that are the biggest questions of the week. We like to get those answered on this show. Brooks, are you ready for your segment?
Yes, sir.
He's so hot right now.
All right, Brooks, besides yourself, who's hot right now?
Whoa, thanks, Blake.
Spicy.
We got a couple popular names. Tyson Williams.
Oh, yeah.
We'll start there.
Okay, good. Good. Brooks, question from Arizona from Mike Wright. Tyson Williams or Tim Patrick in a half-point PPR. That's what I'm tilting on over here, everybody.
Tyson.
Okay, thanks, Brooks. But let's get to the people's questions. Who do we got?
Tyson or Elijah Mitchell.
All right into it, I see. No warm-ups. Thank you, Brooks. All right, the Missile, goodness gracious. The Missile will be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, which projects to be a positive script for the San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles technically blew out the Atlanta Falcons, but it was kind of a weird situation of timing of scoring that it turned into a blowout. And then Tyson will be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, who the latest reports are now a hot hand. I'm not sure how anyone in that backfield gets anything higher than a lukewarm hand besides Tyson. What's Murray gonna do? I guess the touchdown run was nice last week. It was a good strong run, but he has no juice yet. And you're going to Devontae Freeman? Come on. So Tyson is an okay play, but back to that game script. I'm very concerned about the Baltimore Ravens this week, losing so many defensive pieces, losing offensive line pieces. Marquise Brown he's going to play, or he's questionable, I should say. He's the Sunday night game, but questionable. The percentage odds are that he's going to play. I'm just very concerned in the Ravens in this matchup, which would turn into more throwing. Tyson did see 4 targets last week. Does that continue? It's super sketchy, and the Missile scenario is sketchy as well, but I would go with the upside of Elijah Mitchell. I would play the Missile. Brooks, who's next?
All right, we have a lot of the same names versus those guys. So let's start with Tyson versus one of the Denver running backs, Gordon or Javonte Williams at Jacksonville.
Andy's start of the week, Melvin Gordon. I do love both of these guys against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I expect them both to touch the ball 12-plus times. For Elijah, that's what you're hoping for, that too, in that 12 to 15 range. But he at least has the speed to break one to the house. Not that Melvin Gordon doesn't. Apparently, he clocked the fastest next-gen time of the week, and that was the fastest, slowest run I've ever seen. Maybe it's just the colors of his uniform and just how big he is, but he looked like he was moving very slow, and yet he was moving over 20 miles an hour. Oh, man, if it were my team, this is very roster dependent. I think that Melvin Gordon is far safer. If you play Elijah, you're taking the risk that you're going to get 2 to 3 points. It's just in the range of outcomes. That's not going to happen for Melvin Gordon. He could get stuffed over and over, and you end up with a gross line of 6 to 7 points. But he has upside against the Jaguars, so this is roster dependent. If I just in a vacuum, I would take Melvin Gordon. Next question.
All right, how about James Robinson in that mix with Tyson and Elijah Mitchell?
So James Robinson is extremely difficult because the stat line was garbage. Carlos Hyde is in there getting carries. I think he had more carries than Robinson, but they are using Robinson. If you go back and watch it, they're using him all over the field where his targets aren't just dump-offs. They're putting him in the slot. They're trying to give him higher value targets. Now, he dropped one right off his tum-tum. That was really disappointing. But they're using him that way. They are using him the way it seems through 1 week, using him the way it looked like they wanted to use oh, my gosh. It's the rookie. His name is escaping me, Brooks. Save me. Travis Etienne. Thanks, Brooks.
You got it.
You're supposed to help me, Brooks. Thanks for nothing.
You got it.
Looks like they're using Robinson in that ETN role. I would be avoiding James Robinson until further notice. So I would play both Tyson and Elijah over James Robinson. Who do we got next?
Chase Edmonds in that mix.
Ooh. All right. Chase Edmonds. Yep, I would play Chase Edmonds. I wanted to have it be dramatic, and I took a little drink. Brooks, you see what I did there?
Yeah, really built it up there.
Yeah, I did. Chase Edmonds, baby. Look, I expect a positive script against the Minnesota Vikings. Edmonds was used a lot last week. Goal line, probably going to go to James Conner, but I'm going to take the volume and the game script and the passing work of Chase Edmonds this week. Do we have any more of those nasty Elijah Tyson questions?
That's all we got, Mike, for today.
All right, and no other real trending players?
No, it's just a real mix of
wow.
players.
So we're going to the people early. Let's do it.
Stardom, Sit-em.
Welcome to Stardom, Sit-em, everybody. Before we jump into that, I want to thank today's sponsor, Pristine Auction, the best memorabilia. I always call them the sports memorabilia, but just a real good memorabilia site where you can get some really cool stuff, signed, pop culture, sports, whatever you're into. They probably have something. Go check them out if you have not. Use the promo code BALLERS, and you're going to get a $10 credit. I mean, that's just a free $10 to use if you win something, and you only pay for what you win. Go check them out, pristineauction.com. All right, this one's from Anthony. We got DJ Moore, Jamar Chase, or Darrell Henderson in a PPR. That is a difficult question. The Saints, they look like a stout and sturdy defense. They did shut down Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Maybe the pack was just completely caught off guard. Not exactly sure what happened there in week 1 yet. But they have some guys missing in their secondary, talking about the Saints, specifically Marshawn Lattimore, their shutdown guy that they just gave a whole bunch of money to. He's going to be out, hand or a thumb injury, can't recall off the top of my head. And then they have somebody else missing as well. I will play DJ Moore in this spot. I really, really liked his usage I talked about on the podcast. I would try and trade for him before this weekend. Those feelings are even stronger now that there is I think DJ Moore has a chance to have himself a game. If you just need floor, Darrell Henderson in the PPR is fine. And it was just the one catch, I believe, for him last week. But look at how that played out. A huge play to Van Jefferson, another huge play. So opportunities were taken away from Henderson from those efficient passing targets. Next question we got, Loganator 68. I don't know why that is so funny to me. It just is. What's up, Loganator? He wants to know Christian Kirk or Parker. All right, so Parker is back in play with Will Fuller being out for the personal reasons. Well wishes to Will Fuller. We don't know what's going on. Now, that matchup against the Bills has that's not a good one generally for wide receivers, but Parker has been able to have success against White. So I'm not afraid to play him. But Christian Kirk here against the Vikings, let's find out the truth of that situation. Is AJ Green really the skeleton key that opens things up for Christian Kirk in the slot? I think that might be possible. And Rondale Moore, only the 14 routes, a lot of targets on those routes, but it was still only 14 routes. Christian Kirk is more of a full-time guy here. I lean going with Christian Kirk. There is the chance of one of these turning into a shootout. I mean, the probability is certainly on the Vikings and the Cardinals side. So I'm going to go with Christian Kirk in that situation. Next question. Rusty wants to know T. Higgins, Rusty Jones, by the way. Rusty Jones. T. Higgins or Antonio Brown. He capitalized the R, too. I don't know if that was intentional or if he wants me to pronounce it Brown. What would you go with there, Brooks?
I think you did the right thing.
Brown. Antonio Brown. This show is so stupid. But we, but we got T. Higgins here. He's taking on the Chicago Bears, who they gave up those big plays that I referenced earlier to the Los Angeles Rams. But I think that the Chicago Bears are actually going to be a pretty decent defense. And then you got Antonio Brown. Oh, man, against the Atlanta Falcons. Brown, for all of his success, was still number 3 for snaps for the team. That didn't matter. I mean, Tom Brady did not look Mike Evans' way. Antonio Brown gets open, and Tom Brady seems to really enjoy that fact. Oh, goodness gracious. I'll play T. Higgins here. I'm going to hope for the volume from Higgins. Antonio Brown is certainly not a bad play by any stretch. In fact, I have them back-to-back in my rankings, so I mean it's really a heads-up call. But if it were my team, I lean that I'm going to go with T. Higgins here. Next question. Bennett Lundeen wants to know, all right, we got cross-positional here. Jamal Williams versus Brandon Cooks in the half PPR. So I do really like Jamal Williams a lot. He was on the injury report for a chest injury. He is off, though. He was a full practice and marked off of the injury report. He's Monday night.
Revenge game.
Thank you, Brooks. Finally you did something around here. Hot stat, revenge game up against his, quote, ex-girlfriend or whatever he was referring to the Packers as. It's hard to see a world. It's divisional. I get it. It's a divisional game, though, for a brand-new coaching staff. It's hard to see a world where this Detroit Lions matchup doesn't match up similar to what happened last week, where the Packers get out to a big lead. Aaron Rodgers historically has always bounced back from these bad games. The Lions secondary is, to put it kindly, garbage, right? And that's being nice to them. So I expect that Jamal Williams is going to see another 5+ target game. Brandon Cooks, meanwhile, oh, man. I know he had a big day, but like one of those big catches was, so two of them, right? One of them was this throw into double coverage that Brandon Cooks happened to come down with because the Jaguars are equally garbage to the Detroit Lions secondary. And the other one was this bomb, and I don't even think that the target was to Brandon Cooks. If you watch it, there was another wide receiver who was tracking the ball. I don't remember who it was. And then out of nowhere comes Brandon Cooks just flying in from the opposite side of the field and catches the ball. I don't know if that was the plan. If that was the plan, you tricked everybody. So two huge passes where those could have easily gone the other way, and I mean as in the other team. I think Jamal Williams is a much safer play here, and he might have the upside over Brandon Cooks this week. I'm not exactly sure, but I would probably play Jamal. Next question from Axtro J. Julio Jones or Chase Claypool. All right, Julio Jones taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Chase Claypool taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Both of them have decent matchups. Julio Jones got fined. Did you see that, Brooks? For that personal foul?
No, I missed that.
Oh, yeah. Julio Jones had to pay some monies. I mean, compared to the money he's earned, it was like him flinging a quarter over to the NFL, but he still got fined, which was interesting. Seattle, I don't project that they will be able to do to Tennessee what J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones were able to do to Tennessee and just completely blow up the whole offensive scheme here. Chase Claypool, still a my guy, still fully believe in him. I'm going to go with Julio Jones this particular week. Let's see Pittsburgh get it back on track against Vegas. Buffalo is a very stout defense, so I blame Pittsburgh's situation of last week more on what Buffalo was able to do, but we still need Chase Claypool to take that next step, as I'm hoping and projecting that he's going to do. So I'm going to take Julio Jones in what could be more of a shootout against the Seattle Seahawks. And then the next question is, where did it go? sorry, I lost your name, but it was Robert Woods or Deebo Samuel. And I didn't bring it up on the show, which it's shame on me, because it's like he's Robert Woods, right? He feels safe. He has been just a stalwart for PPR these last couple years, extremely safe. He was the one that rotated out, though, where Cooper Cup of Coffee, who is a sensational play this week, but Cooper Cup of Coffee was a full-time guy, and Van Jefferson ran more routes than Robert Woods. Now, Van Jefferson only earned the 3 targets, I believe. One, he had the big touchdown catch off of the old schnoz there, and fell down and got up and scored. It was a crazy play, but it was interesting that Robert Woods was in fact the one who was rotating off. So that we'll see if that happens again. But I would go with, because of that, I would go with Deebo. Like, Brandon Ayuk is, quote, not actually in the doghouse. So, all right, let's talk about this. Kyle Shanahan kind of put fantasy football on blast, right? He was talking about how, oh, well, these things are just much more important now because of fantasy football. Meanwhile, he's the one who's throwing out quotes like, well, if you want to be a full-time player, you got to be a lot better than the guy behind you. You're like, it's an arsonist, like, setting a thing of gasoline on fire and be like, man, whoa, fantasy football, why do they care so much about this fire that I just lit? Like, Shanahan, don't. Just stop. Stop doing that. So, anyways, sorry, I got off topic. But for Brandon Ayuk, allegedly now, it was fully the hamstring. Is Ayuk back to full health? Will it still be him swapping time with Trent Sherfield? I don't know. But I know that Deebo is healthy right now, and Robert Woods looks like he might be the one who's shuffling on and off the field. So for that those reasons, whatever we got there, those reasons, I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel if that was my heads up. That was a really long answer, but I'm just trying to get some more information out there. All right. Ooh, we still have some time. All right, next question. Abner wants to know, oh, gosh, dang it. It was Aguilar. There we go. Oh, DeAndre Swift or Nelson Aguilar for the flex. I'm going with DeAndre Swift. I mentioned it at the top. It's going to be rough with DeAndre Swift for a while. He's going to be managed. He's going to be on injury reports with that groin injury. But watching him on Sunday, that was the explosion of a man who is not thinking about his groin at all. None of us are thinking about our groin, but DeAndre Swift really not. He looked like one of the fastest, most sprite running backs of Sunday's slate. I'm going to go with him. He's going to see a bunch of targets. He's still the guy. Last week the report was that Jamal Williams probably going to carry the load here for the Detroit Lions. Nah, man. DeAndre Swift was good to go. And as much as I like Jamal Williams, Swift is just a better running back. So he's the guy. I would play him over Nelson Aguilar. Our next question on the docket is... Oh. Here we go. Okay. Chase wants to know Corey Davis or Damian Harris in a half-point PPR. So I guess let's just talk about Damian Harris a little bit more. Ramondre Stevenson out. I mentioned J.J. Taylor should be or will be active. I don't know how much he's going to be seen. James White, by the way, he definitely gets a bump up. Not that he wasn't safe before, but I don't know. James White seems like a safer play this week than he was last week. Damian Harris did see a couple targets this past week. He feels pretty safe coming off of the fumble. He had his own fumble last week, so we weren't 100% sure what's going on. But I really, really like Damian Harris this week. Corey Davis, he came through with the big game last week. It kind of took a while for it to happen, but, I mean, you can't argue with what he did with the 2-touchdown game. In a half-point PPR, I think you got to go with Davis if I were deciding between those two players. But I really like Damian Harris this week, so that's an unfortunate situation that you have to bench one of those guys. Next question. Oh, so let's just hit this. Taylor, are you playing Ayuk at all this week? No, I'm trying to avoid it. I want to see what happened. Hopefully, if you have Brandon Ayuk, I mean, that was a middle-round pick. That sucks to have that pick currently sitting inside of the Shanahan arson warehouse where he's just burning everything to the ground. I want to see it happen. If Ayuk goes off on my bench, for me as a fantasy football player, so be it. What I was going to say is hopefully you picked up somebody off the waiver wire like Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is a good play this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Denver Broncos, taking over some more targets now that Jerry Jeudy is injured for a while. But head to head, Tim Patrick versus Brandon Ayuk, when they're both going, that's not even a question. But I want to see Ayuk do it, so I would play somebody like Tim Patrick or even KJ Hamler for the Broncos right off of the waiver wire. I would play both of those guys in front of Brandon Ayuk this week and just let it happen, man. Next question from Zachary Martin, Tyler Boyd or Cole Beasley for a PPR flex. The PPR says I'm going with Cole Beasley. Boyd was, as you would kind of project, he was the number 3 target on the team. Jamar Chase, sensational opening game. T. Higgins, a sensational opening game cut short when the man needed to go get an IV. Meanwhile, Cole Beasley, bad fantasy game, tons of targets. The Buffalo Bills are not changing how they play. They aren't going to all of a sudden start being real run heavy. They're taking on the Miami Dolphins. You don't beat the Miami Dolphins on the ground when you have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. Like Najee Harris, greater sign those players as a running back, and Najee Harris was shut down last week by the Buffalo Bills. So I would go with Cole Beasley. He seems like a shoo-in for 8 to 10. Ugh. I choked, Brooks. I choked.
You okay there, Mike?
Thank you for asking, Brooks. It's about time. Help me out here. He seems like a shoo-in for 8 to 10 targets. All right. And then the last question I saw here, let's go with Gaff10 wants to know Mike Williams or Jarvis Landry in a full-point PPR. I like Jarvis more than the consensus this week. That's why he was my start of the week up against the Houston Texans. But Mike Williams, man, it's hard to not buy in after 1 week. A lot of things were different for Mike Williams. I mean, number one, the volume of targets was incredible. The volume of the targets going to the running back position was non-existent. His average depth of target, it came way in. It's still deep, but it came way in from last year where it was like over 13 yards, his ADOT, which that makes for some very difficult catches, and you're not going to throw those very often. But where he was getting intermediate targets, Mike Williams, it's very exciting. If you drafted him late, if you took that shot of saying Justin Herbert's an up-and-coming quarterback, he's got to have a number 2 option, I think you got to feel really, really good about that situation right now. So I would be going with Mike Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's Sunday Live. If I didn't hit on your player, I apologize, but you can head over to thefantasyfootballers.com. We're still updating those rankings. We have the start-sit tool. The start-sit tool unlocks for 4 players if you kindly support this independent show at jointhefoot.com. And that is going to do it until tomorrow. I wish you nothing but the best of luck today. I wish your enemies nothing but the worst of luck. And remember, keep it beautiful, baby. Mwah! Goodbye, everybody.